Good news, everyone! Remember that glitch that made me crash the forge last episode? Well, I fixed it. That's not a problem anymore. So, anytime you encounter a absolutely soul-crushing bug that makes your entire browser freeze and have to restart, just let me know and I'll try to fix it as soon as I can duplicate it. Anyway, welcome back to the Forge. Today we're doing Mega Man. As usual, we're going to start with the audio. This is the last time you're going to really see me talk about this or the colors. Going to song... Oh, by the way, this is what we're working with. It's all Mega Man, a couple background images, and the song, of course. Throw that puppy in there! Wow, what is the speed? There it is. Cool. Got a song. I'm turning that down, it's loud for me. Alright. Now we're going to go into sprites and add 3 sprites. We need one for the background. We need one for the stripe. And we need one for Mega Man himself. As usual, I'm going to do these one at a time to make sure they are in the right order. We have 2 animations to deal with. This one, and the other one you're not going to see very well. There we go. Now we're going to go into global sprite stuff and scale that up. It looks like they're all in the same place because I haven't moved anything, so they're all scaling from the same center point. We need it to be about this big. And Mega Man needs to move up slightly. Go into General, Sprite Y, in the negative. Maybe not quite that much. That looks perfect! Alright, we're just going to go straight into colorizing the wheel. Let's go ahead and use that trick again, where we go into Image and Animation, Loaded Frames, Auto Colorize, Reset Main Color Spreads to this. We're already done. I don't even have to do anything to that. That already looks great. Actually, I do want the colors of the segments to have more blue. So I'm going to move this down, copy it, and maybe one more. There we go. That is a better concentration of blue to other colors. The intro and font colors don't matter. They're fine. So we are already done with almost everything. Name it Mega Man. Throw a preview image in there. It's just going to be this for now. Boom. So we've uploaded the preview image. We've named the mascot. We've chosen all the colors by just using the auto colorize. We did change the segment colors a little to make it more blue on the wheel. We've uploaded the song, and we've made our mascot. Except for one very key thing. This is stupid. I told you we were going to learn 2 things today. Well, actually, there were 2 key things. This is stupid, that's what we're dealing with first. Now, obviously, we're going into... I didn't name anything. I'm not following my own rules. Stars. Strip? I don't know. That doesn't matter. Mega Man. Cool. Now we're going to go into Mega Man, Image and Animation, Animation, and also open up Loaded Frames, because we see that we have the spin that goes to 7, and then we have the other spin, which is 8, 9, 10, and 11. So we need to separate those. So we go into Animation Sequences, add a sequence. We're just going to take 8, 9, 10, and 11, and put that on Sequence 1, and then take it off of Sequence 0. So we got it spinning, and then we got him doing this. So how do we make it so that it will switch between these 2 things? Well, first of all, I don't want it to switch on this frame. I want it to switch on this frame. So I'm actually going to move 0 to the end. And I'm going to move 8 to the end, too, for the same reason. Same animations, but starting on a different frame. So it starts... Let's slow it way down. It starts on that frame, and it starts on that frame. There's a reason for this, and this is one of the things you can't do with GIFs. There would technically be a way to use gearbox items, which I haven't gone into at all and won't for a while, to make it switch between one animation and another, even on GIFs. If you have two separate GIFs, you can load those as separate animations. You could do that. What you could not do is control where the animation starts to change. I want it to change when it's on that frame, into that frame. Or rather, I want it to change when it's on this frame, into that frame. Because that's the starting frame of that animation. This is the starting frame of that one, but the ending frame is the one where he's in the middle. That one. That's the one I want it to change on. Into this. Actually, no, I want it to change into the A. I didn't need to change this one at all. Sorry, I'm just making sure. So I want it to go from... Basically, like, if we start with this where it was. Like, this is the starting animation frame here. This is the starting animation frame here. I want it to swap between that and this. Right? So... Well, rather from this to that. And then from that to this. So in order to do that, I'm actually going to move the 0 frame to the end. And there's a reason for this that I will get into in a second. I needed a drink. Alright. So what I'm going to do is use magic animation frames. That's what all of this is. These are magic frames. What this is trying to tell you is that when you use one of these frames, it does this thing. So let's just give an example of -123 and -321. This goes to the next animation, this goes to the previous animation. So if we put -123 as a frame at the end of this one, it goes through all of these frames to this starting frame, and then it goes to that animation, where it will stay, because there's no animation frame telling it to ever leave you. So if we speed this back up, it swaps at the end of this, goes to this one, and stays there. Now if we put -321 at the end of this one, it'll swap back and forth. That is what magic animation frames are. And that's just the base example. But I don't want it to just do this, right? I want it to be random, which is the last one. Where the last one comes into play. But just for a note, if you put this in the middle, it will completely ignore most of this animation, right? So we've got this animation, we want it to go into that one. When we put the negative frame at the end, it goes through that and then goes to that, right? If we put it at the very beginning, it goes one frame in and then switches. All of this gets ignored, because there's a magic animation frame telling it to leave. So none of this is active anymore, and it's just ignored. So keep that in mind. Where you're putting the magic frames is very important. That's why I put this at the end, because I knew I would want this to be there. However, I don't want it to just do that every single time. I want it to be random, which is where this comes into play. How do you use this magic frame and this X? This X is representing a percentage number, in this case. Percentage chance from 0 to 100 for the next action, following action. So, if I were to put -888 here, it doesn't do anything, because we haven't done anything with it. First, we have to put in the percentage chance we want something to happen. In this case, I want it to be, I don't know, 20. Now, you'll see it's still not doing anything. And also, if I take this out entirely and just have 20 there, it will just skip that as well. Because that is outside of the frame, or the amount of frames that this has. So it ignores all frames that are bigger than what it actually has. It would only do another frame if it was within the total frames that this animation has. So you can see it glitching here because there's a 3, but if it's like 300, it ignores it. So, with that in mind, it also ignores magic frames, even if they're ones that don't exist. It just ignores them entirely until they're doing something like -123. So -888 doesn't do anything by itself. And -888 with a 20 also doesn't do anything by itself. It's just saying, okay, we're looking for a percentage chance on the next frame of 20 for the next action to happen. But there's no next action yet. You could put another frame here, And you can see it's just going to happen because it's ignoring this, because that's not an action either. The actions are also magic frames. So if we put -1, 2, 3 after this, spinny, spinny, there it goes. It's got a 20% chance for -1, 2, 3 to switch to the next sequence. I know this is very kind of complicated ideas here, but it's the simplest way to do this particular idea. So basically what this says is, spin in a circle, we have a random chance of 20% to swap to the next frame. Random chance, 20%, go to next animation. If we have it at 100%, it'll just happen every time. If we have it at 1%, it will still ignore this because it knows that this is a percentage, because this is before it. And now there is a 1% chance for this to ever switch. So every 1 out of 100 on average, it might switch. As you can see, it's taking its goddamn time. 10%, 1 out of every 10 on average. More likely to see it happen, and there it goes. And that is how magic frames work, and that is what this lesson is teaching you today. This is a very short lesson, because this is the most important thing about it. So now we want it to switch back, right? But we don't want it to just switch back at the same percentage. We want it to have a chance to spin around for a little while and then switch back, but not for too long. So my idea was, I wanted it around 30%. So once again, I want a random chance, -888, of 30% for it to go back to the previous animation. And there you have it. That is today's lesson, everyone. I have just taught you how magic frames work. At least the percentage one and the next and previous animation ones. You can do random animation as well, but it has a chance of going to itself. And it does work with magic, with the percentage chance as well. So if we had this as 101, for example, it would still work, but some of those percent chances, it would actually be switching to itself. So basically what that says is, I'm going to sometimes switch to the sequence 1, but sometimes switch to the sequence 0. So it's better in this case to use 1, 2, 3, and 3, 2, 1. As for these, don't worry about this one. Gearboxes are a lot later. Just know that this exists. This is an important thing too. You can activate certain stuff later on with animation frames by using this as well. So in this case, if you wanted a gearbox on sequence 1 to activate, not that you know what this means, just know that it exists. If you wanted a gearbox on sequence 1 to activate, you would have -777 followed by a 1, followed by whatever. And that could go anywhere in the sequence, because it'll keep going after that. It's only these 4 that will end the sequence. The percentage chance might just be to activate a sequence, or a gearbox, but not to actually move the animation. But these 4 will end the animation wherever they are, if they actually go through. So for example, we saw earlier that if we had -1, 2, 3 here, it would just immediately switch. Like the next frame. So if I just change something, you see it's switching in 1 frame. But if we had the -888 before it, it would still spin. It would just be changing on a different frame. I didn't want it on that frame, I wanted it on 0. So that's why I put 0 at the end, and then this. So, as for the other magic frames, we have random animation, which I discussed. Go to animation X is which sequence you want it to go to. So if you had like 5 more animations, you could, instead of -1, 2, 3, have -111 followed by the animation you actually want it to go to. So in this case it would be 5, so it would go to this one. So if we do that, and just have this be nothing like this, you'll see that it will go to that one instead. See, that's the glitchy shit I just did here. It would look better if that wasn't there. That should be it too. So, that's what that one does. Instead of going to the next or previous or random, you can go to a specific one. And then -555 changes this. So if you wanted it to suddenly go really fast instead of changing animation, like on a 20% chance, you could put -555 and then 0, and then it'll go super hyper fast when that triggers. Because it changed the frame delay to 0. It doesn't show it here, but it happens. Just know that it happens. And that is all I have to teach you on this particular subject. So I'm going to put this back to what it should be. Delete all these useless animation sequences. I'm going to change this back to -1, 2, 3. So we have our random spin around going on. And there is one more thing we need to do to make this mascot complete. And you may have noticed a long time ago what it was, and not known what we were going to do about it. The background is not going to the left. So this is kind of a sneak peek into what happens in the following tutorial, the next mascot we do. So don't pay attention too hard, but just kind of pay attention. We're going to make that go to the left, but we need to do two things. First, we need to go into Particles in Motion, enable particle stuff, and then go into Movement, XY constant motion, X, and make that go left. Alright? That's not happening. But you'll notice that it's not actually filling the whole screen. That's because we need one more thing. Particles in Motion just made it move by enabling that and changing the X movement. We also need it to be a parallax item, so we will enable horizontal parallax. Is that the right one? Yeah. I forgot it did that, so we also need to move it up. Parallax messes with the settings, so we need to actually move it up. There we go. That's it. That's what we needed to do to finish this mascot. Now everything is working as intended. So that was just kind of a preview into Particles in Motion, because that's what we're going over next time. The parallax options, just for a quick preview, or a quick note, as you saw in that first episode when I was just messing around with them, they are what allow you to have things constantly forever scrolling in either the horizontal or vertical or both directions. So if I were to put on parallax for Mega Man, this is the only time I'm going over this, so if you ever need to know what parallax does, this is what it does. That's it. That's all it does. And it will make it so it always exists everywhere on the screen that it can exist, so if you moved Mega Man after this, it wouldn't matter, because he would just keep existing. So you can move him anywhere and he'll be everywhere. But if you turn that off, he will suddenly be somewhere weird. So keep your sprites somewhere useful, just in case. But that's all parallax does, and the kerning is just the spacing between them. There is a limit. If you go too far and it will lag the wheel, it will just make it disappear instead. So it does only have so much room that it can go before it starts destroying the wheel. So I had to make it a thing that just kind of protected you from that. But that's all parallax is. So enabling that for the background layer made it so that it was parallax across the screen, and then the Particles in Motion, rather on the stars, the Particles in Motion, enabling that made it so that it could move to the side. So that's it for this episode. You have now learned how to make Mega Man in his entirety. We have learned everything there is to learn about sprite or animation sequences in the Magic Frames. I haven't given you much practice with that, but you now know what all of them do. And we have looked into Particles in Motion, which we will be using for the next mascot, which will be Bubble Bubble. And Bubble Bubble will be kind of like the final piece of all of this puzzle. We've learned about animations and animation frames. We've learned about we've looked at Particles in Motion now, and we're going to look into that more in depth. We've learned about having different sprites loaded in, and they're like, God, what is it? The frames? Like, sorry, brain fart. The loaded frames. So we're going to combine all of that together in the next episode for a very quick episode of how to use the particle system to do various things. See you then.